Hello everyone, welcome to the second part of the video on microorganisms. So before we learn something new, let us see what we learned in the previous lesson. So in the previous video we learned what are microorganisms. So microorganisms are any living minute organisms which cannot be seen by our naked eye. What is microbiology? So microbiology is a science that deals with the study of microorganisms, and the person who studies microbiology is known as microbiologist. Yes, next we learned what is a virus. Virus is something that can survive only in the presence of host cell. So it can infect and grow only in the presence of a host cell. Then we learned its structure and what are the characters of virus. In characters we learned it has both living and non-living characters, and in the structure we learned how exactly a virus looks. Then we learned what is a bacteria. Bacteria is again a microorganism which cannot be seen by a naked eye. In bacteria, we have certain bacteria which are useful and certain which are pathogenic. That is, they cause diseases. Then we learned what is the structure of bacteria. And last, we learned classification of different bacteria based on shape, respiration and arrangement of flagella. And based on shape we learned we have spherical shaped, rod shaped, etc. And based on respiration we learned two types, that is aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. And lastly, arrangement of flagella. So we saw how different bacteria are classified based on different arrangement of flagella. So what we will be learning in this particular video, let us see that. So we'll be learning what is a fungi and its structure, what are algae and its structures, what is a protozoa and its structure. I hope you remember this classification of microorganism. Yes, the microorganisms are classified broadly into 5 categories. They are virus, bacteria, fungi, algae and protozoa. So in the previous video we learned virus and bacteria. So now we'll be learning fungi, algae and protozoa. So let us go deep into each category. So the first one is fungi. So let us see what is a fungi. So the first question arises is, what is a fungi? So fungi are a group of living organisms which do not fall under any of these groups, that is animals, plants or bacteria. So the statement clearly says that fungi does not fall under any of these categories, which means they are neither plants or animals nor bacteria. Then what exactly are these fungus? The word fungus is a Latin word which means mushroom. I hope all of you know what a mushroom is. Yes, most of you would have also eaten a mushroom. Yes, so mushroom is a fungi. Again, we have not seen what a fungi is. So fungus is a living organism that feeds and survives on decomposing substances. So I would like to repeat it again. Fungus is a group of living organism which survives or lives on other decomposing substances. So let us learn about this fungi in more detail. So these fungi are found everywhere in the nature. They are found everywhere in the nature around us. So it is said that fungi grow in the dark environment. So fungi is not a plant or not an animal which requires sunlight for its survival. Hence it can grow in dark atmosphere or environment. So here the study of fungi is called as mycology. The study of fungi is called as mycology, and the person who studies a fungi is called as mycologist. Now let us see some basic important characters of a fungi. So before I go into the characters, let us see, as I already said, we eat mushroom, right? Do we eat all kinds of mushroom? No, we don't eat all kinds of mushroom. There are certain mushroom only that are edible. Other mushrooms are considered to be highly poisonous. So when you see any mushroom growing on the ground, we just do not pluck it and take it home and cook it. Yes, only certain mushrooms are edible and others are non-edible and poisonous. So you should always remember to classify or to differentiate between a edible mushroom and a non-edible mushroom. Fungi are eukaryotic organisms. So in the previous video, if you look, I had said about prokaryotic cell. So prokaryotic cell, in that I had mentioned that the nucleus does not have a proper nuclear membrane. But in eukaryotic organism, the nucleus is properly surrounded by a nuclear membrane. It consists of a well-developed nuclear membrane, and in that nuclear membrane, the nucleus is present. So fungi is one of the eukaryotic organisms. And eukaryotic organisms are advanced kind of organisms compared to prokaryotic organisms. Yes, important feature of a fungi is they do not have chlorophyll, hence cannot prepare their own food, and that is why they are not plants. So fungi does not have a chlorophyll, so it cannot prepare their own food. And I said you earlier, they survive and live by feeding on the decomposing substances. Yes, when we hear it, it appears to be very gross or something very unlikely, because we also eat mushroom which grows by feeding on other decomposing substances. So they get their food by decomposing matter or eating of their host as parasite. Yes, the one feature that I said is they survive either by feeding on the decomposing substances, or they survive as a parasite by feeding on another living organisms. So this fungi vary widely in size from microscope to macroscope. So we find certain fungi that are minute in size and certain fungi that are macroscopic, such as mushroom. In microscope, you can remember yeast. Yeast is a fungi which is very minute and cannot be seen by a naked eye. They are either unicellular or multicellular. So unicellular means they have only single cell, and multicellular means they have different cells. So for unicellular, I said you earlier, yeast is an example. For multicellular, we can remember mushroom. They are usually not motile. Motile, what does this word motile mean? Motile means movement. Therefore, fungus does not have motility, that is movement. It cannot move from one place to another place. Hence, it cannot be an animal. That is why in the previous slide I said you, fungi does not fall under either plants or animals, because plants, they prepare their own food which fungi cannot, and animals which can move but fungi cannot even move. So now let us study about one particular fungi known as yeast. So here is a picture of a yeast cell. Yeast is a fungi found freely in the environment. So I said earlier, it is a unicellular microscopic fungi which is found in the nature freely. As you can see in the picture, the yeast cell is ovoid in shape. Ovoid means oval in shape. So this yeast cell consists of an outer covering called as cell wall. So this cell wall, we have been hearing the term cell wall. So the outermost covering is cell wall, and inside the cell we have a nucleus. So inside the cell wall we have a cytoplasm which consists of Golgi apparatus and lipid granules. Then again, yeast respires anaerobically. So the term anaerobically I have mentioned in the previous video, which means it respires without oxygen. That is, it does not require oxygen for respiration and reproduces by budding. So this reproduction we'll see later in the future videos. So I have shown you what a fungi is, or what I have said what a fungi is. Then we have learned about a yeast cell, which is a unicellular fungi which has a cell wall and a nucleus, and in that below the cell wall we have cytoplasm, which consists of lipid granules and Golgi apparatus. Now I am going to show you further images of fungi. This is a microscopic view of a yeast cell. So when I have to say further about yeast, what is the use of yeast, and why do we have any use of this yeast in our day-to-day life? Yes, yeast is something that we generally see in everyday life, in our cooking or in our bakeries. Let me say you further more clearly. So when we are baking a cake, so your cake is very soft and fluffy. The fluffiness of your cake is only due to the presence of yeast. So your baker, that is the person who bakes a cake, he adds yeast to the dough, and that dough plucks up because of the yeast, and that is why your cake is very fluffy and softer. So yeast is something that is edible. And this is one more type of macroscopic fungi, mushroom. So I said already, all the mushrooms are not edible, only few are edible. So you should be very careful when you find a mushroom outside your house. So now let us go to the next classification of microorganism, that is algae. So what is an algae? Anybody, you know this term, what is an algae? We see it everywhere or every day in our life, but you don't know what are the features of this algae and what are they exactly. So let us see what are an algae. Algae are plant-like eukaryotic organism. They are plant-like eukaryotic organism. So algae are not plants, they are just plant-like eukaryotic organisms. So I have already said what is a eukaryotic organism. The eukaryotic organisms are the organisms that have a proper nuclear membrane around the nucleus. So algae are plant-like, but they are not plants. The word algae comes from the Latin word which means sea weeds. I want to specify sea weeds. The sea weeds can be split into two words, sea and weeds. You know what is a sea? Now what are these weeds? Weeds are anything that grows by itself without our, we need not grow them, or we need not give them extra care in their growth. So weeds are such things that grow by themselves, and they grow very rapidly wherever you find them. So if you see a barren land in your neighborhood, you see different kinds of plants growing by themselves. You don't have to water them, or you don't have to take care of them. They just grow by themselves. Such plants are called as weeds, or such things are called as weeds. Here it is mentioned as sea weeds. So what the sea weeds could be? So these are the things that can grow by themselves only in the moist area. So the places which are moisty, these algae grow up without any concern of anybody's, or without anybody's care. Yes, it is said algae are plant-like. Why they are plant-like? Because they have a chlorophyll, hence can prepare their own food. So algae have chlorophyll in them, hence they can prepare their own food. As algae can prepare their own food, they are called as autotrophic. Auto means self, trophic means they can prepare their own food, or they can survive by themselves. The study of algae is called as phycology. The study of algae is called as phycology. So, the person who studies phycology is called as phycologist. So, what are the characters of an algae? So, I have said algae, we find it everywhere around us in the nature. Wherever you find the place is moist, these algae start growing up there. They are found in moist places like on the surface of lake, or on the surface of pond, or on any moist floor. So you can see the green algae growing up on that moist places. Hence they are called as grass of water. As you can find on the surface of ponds or lake, that is why they are called as grass of water. Even algae vary widely in size. They are microscopic to macroscopic. Algae can also be unicellular and microscopic. For example, Chlamydomonas, which we will learn in the next slides. And there are certain algae which are multicellular and macroscopic. Example, Sargassum. Sargassum is a algae. So I said unicellular and microscopic bacteria, they can exist either in spherical shape, spindle shape, or rod shaped. Whereas multicellular and macroscopic bacteria, they exist as filaments and branches. We'll see what they are in the further slides. Now let us see the unicellular and microscopic algae, Chlamydomonas. So this is the cell structure of Chlamydomonas, or we can say the structure of Chlamydomonas. So this is how a Chlamydomonas appears. So I have said Chlamydomonas are unicellular and motile freshwater algae. So motile, we read about this motile in fungi. Motile means movement. So these Chlamydomonas are unicellular and they can move and they live in fresh water. They are commonly pyriform shape. What is this pyriform shape? So the picture clearly says what is a pyriform shape. So in the anterior portion, that is in the forward portion, it is narrow, but in the posterior, the backward portion is broad. Such shape is called as pyriform shape. The one with the broad posterior end and a narrow anterior end. So these Chlamydomonas have a cell wall. Then they have a cytoplasm which is present between the cell wall and the chloroplast. So as you see the picture very clearly, you can see where the chloroplast is. The dark green portion in the Chlamydomonas is the chloroplast. Between the dark green portion and the cell membrane, the light green portion is called as a cytoplasm. So chloroplast, which is one of the important feature of an algae, this chloroplast consists of chlorophyll that helps in the process of photosynthesis. I hope all of you are familiar with the term photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process in which, with the help of chlorophyll, the organism prepares its own food using sunlight, water and carbon dioxide. Hence, they are called as autotrophic. They can survive by themselves. So you can see in between the hollow cavity of the chloroplast, there is a nucleus. In the anterior portion, you see this flagella. So the flagella helps in the movement. That is why it is motile in nature. So you have two flagellas in the anterior portion. And below the flagella, you can see vacuoles. And these Chlamydomonas exhibit sexual and asexual mode of reproduction. So this reproduction we'll see further in the next few chapters what it is. So as I said, the algae are plant-like, but they are not plants. But I have a very big question to all of you. How are algae different from plants? Because plants also have chlorophyll, algae is also having chlorophyll. Both can prepare their own food. Hence, what is the difference between a plant and an algae? Can we call algae also as plants? No, we cannot consider algae as plants. Plants are different, algae are different. So plants, how they are different? So plants are very complex in nature. Complex in nature means, see, if you see any plant, you can see stem, leaf, root, branches, fruit, and flowers, all these things. So this is the complexity of a plant. So when you see all these features, you say it is a plant or a tree. But in an algae, you don't see all these things. So you have only a chlorophyll which helps in photosynthesis, and that it can prepare its own food. And moreover, another big difference is plants cannot move, whereas we have certain algae which can move. So this is a two big difference which can state that algae are not plants. So I want to show you certain unicellular algae, how it looks under a microscope. As I said, unicellular algae could be either in spherical shaped. This is rod shaped bacteria, rod shaped algae. And these are spindle shaped algae. So this is a type of algae called as Spirogyra. This is an important and very interesting algae which we'll learn in further higher grades. This is a Spirogyra, and we mentioned that algae is called as grass of water. So you can see why it is called as grass of water. So I have a question. So we see algae in the surface of lakes and ponds. But how does it grow on the surface of lakes and ponds? And does it harm any living organisms in water if we have this algae all on this surface? And one more thing is, when you go near a pond which is completely evaded by these algae, you get very foul smell. What is the reason of this foul smell? So I have an assignment for all of you. I want you to find out how does a algae affect, or how does a algal growth on the surface of the pond affect the other fishes or other living organisms in the water, and why do you get such foul smell when the pond is completely evaded by algae? So these are the two questions that you have to find out the answer and write down in your book. Question number 1 is, does the algae which is found on the surface of water, this excess algae, affect the other living organism present inside the water? Question number 2 is, why do we get this foul smell when we have, or when the pond is completely evaded with the algae? Okay, so now let us go into the last classification of microorganism, that is protozoa. Protozoa. What are protozoa? Protozoans are single-celled organisms that act like animals. So the statement says protozoa are single-celled organisms that act like animals. So let us see what they are. Okay. Protozoa is a Greek word which means first animals. So protozoan is a term derived from a Greek word which means first animals. Okay, these protozoans are microscopic organisms which we found in ponds, moist soil, or in the cells of plants and animals where they cause diseases. So these protozoa are microscopic organisms which we find them either in the soil, in the pond, or they can even be found in the plants and animals which cause diseases. So let us learn further about these protozoans. Okay, the study of protozoa is called as protozoology. The study of protozoa is called as protozoology. What are the characters of protozoa? So protozoa are the microscopic organism, and the word is derived from a Greek word which means first animals. They vary widely in size. So as I said, they are either free living microorganisms or they require another organism to survive. So free living means they are found freely in pond water or in soil or any other places, or if they require another organism, these protozoa survive as parasites. So these protozoa sometimes require another organism or a host organism in which they can survive. And it is said that protozoa lives in a group. So they form a group called as colonies and they survive all together. So I have said some protozoa live as parasites by feeding on their host. Host means another living organism. It could be either plants or animals and feed on them. That is, they eat away their host and make them fall sick. So these protozoas are they have different special organelles for feeding, for movement and for other functions. So these protozoas have different organelles in them. These specialized organelles each for either feeding or for movement or for other certain functions. So let us see about one such protozoa called as amoeba. So it is a very interesting protozoa, amoeba, which is found in water, and these amoeba do not have a shape. So you can see in the picture, it can take any shape. It can take any shape. It does not have a specific shape. So amoeba is a unicellular microscopic organism found in ponds. It has irregular shapes and its shapes keep changing, as I said. So these amoeba keeps on changing their shape. So these amoeba has a cell membrane, you can see, and inside that cell membrane we have a cytoplasm and a nucleus. Amoeba moves by means of pseudopodia, false feet, which are extensions of the cell membrane. This is a very peculiar feature of this amoeba. So how does this amoeba move? So this amoeba moves with the help of pseudopodia. Pseudopodia. What is this pseudopodia? So that I'll say you in the next slide. So as you can see in the picture, it has spread its body all around and it had certain loops kinds of structure, and this loop kind of structure helps in the feeding and movement motion, which I'll explain you in the next slide. Pseudopodia helps in catching the prey. And inside this cytoplasm we have vacuoles that helps in the excretion process. Amoeba reproduces by fission and sporulation. This reproduction part we'll further see in the next chapters. So now let us see how this amoeba feeds and how this amoeba moves. So there is a picture showing different stages how exactly an amoeba feeds and moves. So in the first picture you can see a free-lying amoeba. Then in the second picture you can see a bacteria which is approaching the amoeba, or amoeba which is approaching a bacteria. It could be in any way. So now see the picture very clearly, children. So the bacteria has approached the amoeba. Now the amoeba, the pseudopodia, the pseudopores, that is the false feet. You can see in the third picture the false feet, which is the extension of the cell membrane, is engulfing the bacteria. Engulfing the bacteria means it is taking the bacteria inside its body with the help of pseudopores, which are the extensions of the cell membrane. So you can see the third picture. It has shown very clearly how a bacteria is getting engulfed by the amoeba with the help of pseudopores. In the fourth picture, you can see the bacteria is completely engulfed, that is, it is completely inside the body of amoeba. Now the bacteria is digested and the nutrients of the bacteria is absorbed by the amoeba. So once the bacteria enters the amoeba, the bacteria dies and its nutrients are absorbed by the amoeba and the waste is thrown away from the body with the help of contractile vacuoles. So in the fourth picture you see the bacteria inside amoeba. In the fifth picture you can see the bacteria is getting killed and its nutrients are being absorbed. In the last image you can see the waste which is present is excreted away from the body with the help of contractile vacuole. So this is how your pseudopores help in engulfing the bacteria. So with the help of the pseudopores, the amoeba also even has the capability to move. So these pseudopores help in movement as well as helps in capturing the prey. So I want to show you the images of certain protozoans. This is the first picture showing Paramecium. Paramecium is also an protozoa which has cilia all around its body. Cilia means small hair-like structures which is present all around the body, which helps in the movement and attachment to the host. The next one is Euglena. So you can see Euglena, which is also a protozoan. This has a single flagella in the anterior portion which helps in the movement. The third picture is of a Plasmodium. This is also a protozoan. So I want to say something about this Plasmodium. So all of you must be familiar about a disease called as malaria. Yes. So this malaria is spread by mosquitoes. So when a female Anopheles mosquito bites a human being, it is said that malaria is caused. Yes. But does all female Anopheles mosquito when bites a person you get malaria? No. So what happens is this particular protozoa called as Plasmodium, this Plasmodium which is present in the water bodies somehow enters into the mosquito. So this Plasmodium enters into mosquitoes and survives inside the mosquito. So when this particular infected female Anopheles mosquito when bites a human, this Plasmodium enters into the human body, into the human blood, and that is how the malarial infection is caused. So you should be very understand clearly that only the mosquitoes which are infected by the Plasmodium, and when such mosquito bite us, this Plasmodium gets transferred into the human blood and causes malaria. And we have several diseases which are caused by protozoans. So we have clearly seen what are the different classifications of microorganisms, and I think we have now clear image of the 5 different classes of microorganisms, starting from virus, bacteria, fungi, algae and protozoans. So you have learned what exactly a microorganism and what are its classification. Now let us see a general new topic called as prions. What are these prions? So prions are the abnormal form of a protein found in the brain. So these prions are the protein molecules, abnormal protein molecules which are found in the brain, and that is sometimes responsible for a variety of fatal neurodegenerative diseases of animals. I know I am using certain very difficult terms, so let me explain what these are. So simple, prion is a abnormal form of protein. We all know what a protein is, and this abnormal form of protein is found in the brain. So what this abnormal protein does is it causes a neurodegenerative disease. What is this neurodegenerative disease? Means the neural tissues or the nerve cells, these nerve cells are affected by this protein, and because of this effect, your signal passing to the brains or from the brain to the other parts of the other parts gets affected. Because of this prion, sometimes your sense or your signaling capacity gets reduced. So this prion is a protein which is found in the brain and can cause neurodegenerative diseases. That is, it affects your nerve cells and damages them, which what affects your signals which your other body parts are sending to brain, or your brain is sending to other body parts. What does this prion mean? So the prions mean proteinaceous infectious particle. So the prion means proteinaceous infectious particles. So these prions do not have DNA or RNA. So when they do not have the genetic material, so they cannot transmit the disease from one person to another person. They causes diseases by affecting the brain or the neural tissues. As I said before, they affect your nerve cells, so your signal gets completely affected. Hence, it is a neurodegenerative diseases, and they are sometimes very fatal to the living organism, which may even result to the death of a person. So example is a Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. It is a disease which is caused by prions, that is the abnormal protein. They affect your brains, hence the signals from your brain does not reach to the body parts, and hence your nerve system completely fails down, and that results in the death of a person. So this is how a prion becomes a fatal to the living organisms. Now let us see what are virions. You can see a picture very similar to virus. Yes, virions are something similar to virus, but these virions are entire virus particle consisting of an outer protein shell called as capsid. So you can see what a capsid is. So the blue color shield, hexagonal shield, is called as the capsid, which is protecting the inner core DNA or RNA material, and around it we have a envelope that has spikes that helps the virus particles to attach to the host cells, which we have already learned when we learned about virus. What these virions are? Okay, before I say what a virion is, virion are the virus particles which are present outside the cell. Outside the cell means in the extracellular fluid of the body. So it could be in the plasma, in the blood, or anywhere, but not inside the cell. So these virions are present outside the cell in the extracellular fluidity. So are these virions are also capable of infectivity? Yes, absolutely. These virions are also infective in nature because, as you can see the picture very clearly, they have DNA and RNA particles, which is the major cause for infectivity and can transmit from one to other. So the statement says, if the virus is found outside the cell in the extracellular fluid, it is called as virion. So this is virion. So the difference between virus and a virion is, virus is present inside the cell, whereas virion is present outside the cell. And virus is comparatively larger when we compare it to the virions. That is, virions are smaller than the virus particles. So this virions can also infect any living tissues, and it can be transmitted from one to the other. So I hope we have learned, or you have understood, what are fungi, what are algae, and what are protozoans, along with prions and virions. And don't forget to find out the answers for the questions that I have asked. Thank you.